We are going to read Genesis 4, 3-5. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Jehovah. And Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And Jehovah had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. I will stop reading there. In our last study, we saw it said in verse 3, and in process of time it came to pass. And that literally means, and at the end of days it came to pass. By using this language of at the end of days, God is signaling to us that what we are reading concerning Cain and Abel is something that would take place spiritually at the time of the end stage of the earth's existence. It just so happens that the historical account of Cain and Abel fits very well with the parable of the wheat and the tares. It was at the end of the age, at the time of harvest, that God completed the separation of the wheat and the tares. We have spent a long time looking at that parable, and we know it is a parable that really details the end of the church age. During the church age, the wheat and tares grew together for that 1,955-year period from 33 AD until 1988 AD. Then came the time of the end, and God set in motion the mechanism to begin separating the wheat from the tares. That mechanism was a commandment that came forth from the Bible. Prior to that, God had sealed the word until the time of the end, and the implication is that at the time of the end, His word would be unsealed. God said in Daniel 12, verse 4, that at that time knowledge would increase. In the time of the end, God began to open the understanding of His people to see the information that the church age had come to a close. The book of Jeremiah was especially instrumental in revealing this truth to the people of God. At the same time that God revealed the end of the church age, and He also revealed it was time for the true believers to come out of the churches because the churches were 100% apostate. God's commandment was to depart out and flee to the mountains. It was not just a request. It was not an option, but it was the commandment of God to leave the congregations just as God had commanded the Jews to go into captivity. Again, that was not a request, but a command of God to go into captivity into Babylon. Those that failed to obey were likened to evil figs to be destroyed. Those that failed to come out of the churches were likened to tares that would be burned. God's command was the process He set in motion to begin the act of separating the wheat and tares that had grown together until the harvest. The harvest began at the beginning of the Great Tribulation, and it continued to the end of the Great Tribulation when there was a final separation. Judgment Day was also part of the process of separating the wheat and tares, and on May 21st, 2011, the final separation took place, and all that remained in the churches were bundled as tares for the burning. Those that had obeyed God and come out of the churches were likened to the wheat. Of course, God had other tests that would continue for those that did come out, but one thing was certain. Any that remained in the churches were bundled and cast into the fire on the selfsame day of May 21st, 2011.